Hello, dudes. This is part 3 of my 3-parter, Missed Opportunity in the Community. And yes, since it's part 3, there were 2 other parts before it. The first one being right here about misconceptions, and the episode synopsis is there. The second being about the love side. And now this will touch on the hate. Let me be honest with you and myself. I like this episode a lot. It's funny, the characters are amazing, the music is spectacular. The fact that they were able to have an episode about business, something that most kids and probably people my age would not find that fun, entertaining, and able to give a lot of information without being like, let me fill your brain with crap about school and economy. But with that said, I agree with a number of people that this is definitely a weak episode. How can I say that after everything I've said in the last 2 videos, and also with the fact that I've rewatched this episode the most out of any other episode in the series? Heck, this episode was what made me a brony, and it's my starting point for these videos. But it's the good and the bad that makes me want to talk about this episode that seems to be very shoved off, ignored, and being like, oh yeah, that was the episode with those brothers and that good song that they had. It is not until the last 3 minutes of Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 that the episode's flaws become even more frustrating. It essentially undermines everything that was set up in that episode and cheapens the possibility for something worthwhile to be learned. Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 could have been an awesome Applejack episode that could have given Applejack a heck of a lot of growth and character development in the same level as perhaps Applebuck season. Heck, even more if you ask me. And it would have also had intelligent undertones and more subtle messages within the episode, like Suited for Success. The Flim and Flam brothers were never a threat to Sweet Apple Acres, ever. From what we see and what we know about the Apple family and Flim and Flam, is that the Apple family business is huge. Not only does the Apple family have an apple farm, sell apples, sell Apple products, and have multiple different variations of crops and livestock. They've been given that land by Celestia herself. There was no possible way that the Flim Flam brothers could easily get that farm. And even then, it was never about the farm to Flim and Flam. When they had that competition, they just specifically said,
whoever produces the most barrels in 1 hour wins the exclusive right to sell cider in Ponyville.
The farm was never up for grabs. The farm was never in the bargain. The farm was fine. The most that the apples perhaps had to compromise was that now they were obligated to give Flim and Flam apples. And even then, that's a perhaps, because that wasn't in the deal either. Which means Flim and Flam still would have had to somehow cooperate with the apples to get some apples for their machine. Or wait for one of their suppliers to go over there and give them a good batch of apples. Because the story began to focus on we're gonna lose the apple farm, the story completely forgot about the customers and the internal struggle that Applejack was having behind the scenes. And that only serves to give unnecessary conflict that shouldn't be there, to show that the apples have something more to lose than Flim and Flam, when in reality, Flim and Flam had a lot more to lose than the Apple family. Flim and Flam are the real underdogs here because Flim and Flam are traveling salesmen trying to make a business with their cider. They don't have an apple farm. They are still new and still establishing their name. Whereas the Apple family already have a name, they have a business, and they have a large apple farm with multiple products to keep them year-round without any problem. There could have been something else to serve as the real issue in the story, such as the concept of business competitors, such as the internal struggle that Applejack is having with being afraid of change, which still would have been a great way to implement that idea that Flim and Flam were threatening her lifestyle. And this whole writing for convenience or to invoke a certain idea of a person, character, or situation doesn't get any better and gets worse within the last 3 minutes as Flim and Flam are suddenly out of character. And here's how. Throughout the entire episode, they were never interested in owning the apple farm. And then suddenly at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, ha, 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 now we get the farm. Why would they want the farm? Think about it. Why would Flim and Flam want the farm? What would Flim and Flam do with the apple farm? They're traveling salesmen. And arrogant businessmen or not, they're still small businessmen. I highly doubt that they can be able to maintain and afford that farm at all. But that doesn't offend me as much as the other point that they were out of character the last 2 or 3 minutes. Whether or not you can debate if Flim and Flam really wanted that farm, you cannot debate that Flim and Flam were smart. It is clearly shown that Flim and Flam are very intelligent and very aware of what the heck they're doing throughout the entire episode. So why would they be stupid enough to give the customer the obviously bad cider? And here's why that irritates me. I do not like it in a story, movie, anything that goes to make their character out of character by making said character stupid. When a protagonist does it, it adds a needed conflict. When an antagonist does it, you're acknowledging that the protagonist cannot win unless you force the antagonist to lose. That only diminishes the impact of the victory that the protagonist supposedly earned. There are several ways to have an antagonist lose where the antagonist is pretty much part of their own demise. And it was shown within the episode, with Flim and Flam's arrogance being like, psh, I don't care if you have your friends help you, you're gonna lose anyways. And then turn around and be like, oh, holy crap, we're behind. If it wasn't for their arrogance, that wouldn't have happened and they would have won without any competition at all. And here's another thing. Why would they bargain with the bad cider? When in reality, why didn't they make more cider? Or why didn't they open up one of their good ones, grab those cups, throw them out, and say, hey, we're sorry, that was a mistake. You 3, free cider for a week, the first 20 people, free cider, and then picked up from there. But nope, after 3 people, they decided that they can't sell their cider. And then they up and left without even trying. And that's a big reason when, at first, I didn't like how Applejack and her friends lost. Because if you were going to force Flim and Flam to lose anyways, it would have been easier and more understandable that they would lose because of their own arrogance and not because of a script forcing them into stupidity. Or better yet, I think the whole man versus machine idea could have been scrapped. The contest only enforces that there can only be one winner and one loser, when the situation obviously called for some form of collaboration or a way of working together, when all the tension of such a contest is already taken out because we already know that the Apple family cannot compete in a contest where it is shown that they could not possibly meet the demand as they haven't been able to for many, many years in a row. Like seriously, if I was the customer and I heard that, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what do you mean you can pretty much give the whole town cider in 45 minutes? If you could, why didn't you? Why are we here? Why are we dealing with this that I can wait for 5 hours in a line and not get any cider, and then you tell me 2-3 years after I started waiting that you could do it in 45 minutes? The contest brings issues. Seriously, it starts out with Apple Bloom and Granny Smith flat out lying to the customers and screwing themselves over in a contest that they knew they wouldn't win. It blurs the lines between what is actually cheating and what is staying within the rules, with Twilight and her crew joining the contest. Then there's the fact that If Flim and Flam would have lost, then the ending wouldn't have been as bad as it was. The best bet for this kind of story was to show both sides struggle because one side has what the other needs. Flim and Flam need the Apple family, and the Apple family need Flim and Flam. Whether they like to admit it or not, or whether they acknowledge it or not, they need each other. Because really, if you think about it, the whole episode feels like it's set up for that big moment when both teams come together in order to make Ponyville happy.
But if it really does work, we could make every pony in town happy.
I just don't know, y'all. We've always made cider the same way.
Sid, last cup. Oh, for Pete's sake! Come on back tomorrow, every pony.
What seems to be the problem here?
Oh my, out of cider again?
What have we here? Who'd like a cup? Don't worry, every pony. There are plenty of apples in Equestria. We'll find some others and make more cider than all of Ponyville can drink.
But the perfect opportunity wasted aside, we finally get to the worst part of the episode, the message.
Dear Princess Celestia, I wanted to share my thoughts with you. I didn't learn anything. I was right all along. If you take your time to do things the right way, your work will speak for itself.
Who cares how good the cider is if I never get to drinking?
This is a bad message that should not be taught to anyone, child, adult, or otherwise. It's the most destructive message that Applejack can figure out for herself. Just because someone approaches a problem differently than somebody else does not make that person wrong or irrelevant. As long as you have the right foundation and you are able to actually create the efficient product that you're looking to create, then you have successfully fulfilled what you are going to do. Flim and Flam's cider did speak for itself. It spoke for itself very loudly, especially considering the person chosen to try it and smiled and felt guilty about it was Granny Smith. Someone who was openly opposed and bashing Flim and Flam admitted that what they had is real. It had a message that could teach cooperation, collaboration, and the ability to accept new things and new ideas to better reach your goals. But instead, we get this mean-spirited message that unless you think like me, you're wrong. Your way of doing things is wrong. Applejack did need to learn something, and the fact that she went 5 steps back instead will be detrimental to her in the future. Because whether or not Applejack wants to acknowledge it, change is coming. And the more she keeps accepting that idea that she doesn't have to accept it or she doesn't have to move forward and that she's going to be fine forever, the sooner she'll lose the farm. Like, actually lose the farm. Because comfort is one of the most dangerous places that any business could ever be in. The moment that you think that you're too good for a new idea or something else that could possibly expand your business, you might actually regret not taking that offer sometime in the future. Applejack had nothing to lose and possibly a whole heck of a lot to gain. She could have gained her customer satisfaction. She could have gained more of a profit. She could have gained the best partnership that will ever pass her way. And even if she didn't gain all that, it would have never hurt her for trying at least. It's better than telling her customers to suck it up every year and not do anything about it. This episode started off with a real big bang and then fizzled off into something average at best. This episode was a business episode, and by the second half it completely throws that idea away and becomes something that we've all seen before. If the contest was to work, you had to take the business aspect out of it by taking away the supply versus demand issue. Or the scene with Granny Smith could have been taken away, leaving the cider of Flim and Flams very ambiguous until the end where they give the customers the good cider and the customers decide for themselves, hey, this is not what we wanted. This is not that good. I think we'll just wait over there for Applejack cider. Will I recommend this episode to anybody? No, not really. I would just say watch it for Flim and Flam and don't watch it for anything else. If you watch this episode with your brain turned off, you miss out on all the great things about Flim Flam, the business aspect of the episode, and all the smart undertones. But if you watch it with your brain turned on, you end up catching all the flaws and all the inconsistencies within the last half. So I suggest watching it the way I did the first time, half packing and half paying attention. Then you don't care at all. This episode truly means to me what a love-hate relationship is. Well, I guess that concludes all my yakking about this episode for now. Seriously, I could talk about this episode and these characters for hours. So thank you for listening to my yakking, and comments, requests, feedback, anything is cool, you know. I got several ideas, so I'll add more ideas. So later, dudes.